Jazz play without their 5 All-Stars. James and Davis out for the home team. Mitchell, Gobert, and Conley out for Utah. Jordan Clarkson was drafted by the Wizards, traded to the Lakers, later traded to Cleveland where he teamed with LeBron James. So there is enough familiarity that Clarkson can try that move with James right there. Take another look. Everybody funny. No, you funny too. Lakers looked in control, but in the fourth quarter, Utah went on a 15-0 run to make this game more watchable. Here's Clarkson during that run. He had 10 of his 27 in the fourth quarter, and then Joe Ingles caps that run with the three-pointer. Nothing but net right there. Ingles goes for 20 and 14, first lead since the second quarter for the Jazz. 80 seconds remaining. Dennis Schroeder by Ilyasova right there. The Lakers up 1. 15 seconds left. Quinn Snyder, Coach of the Year, drawing this up. Ingles to Clarkson, great movement. Decoy screen to Shake Schroeder. I'm taking notes listening to Hubie Brown, Stan, while I'm watching this. Yep. Jazz take a 2-point lead because he's so good. 9 seconds left. Frank Vogel, let's draw this up. Schroeder takes O'Neal to the hole when the lane opens right there. Schroeder was great late in this. Jazz inbound quickly. Can they get something going? They got a few seconds left. Clarkson! No, we can go to overtime. Kuzma hit a 3 in overtime. Lakers went 1 for 10 from 3 in the fourth. They went 1 for 1 from 3 in the overtime. It was all Lakers in the OT. Schroeder to Andre Drummond, the drum major. He had 27 points, 8 rebounds. Lakers, and then Kentavious Caldwell-Pope here. Schroeder to Pope to Schroeder to Pope. Caldwell-Pope got hurt here. The Pope was working on Saturday, though. He had 25 points. Schroeder 25 and 8 assists. 127-115. These two play again on Monday.
You know, with the fans being in the arena, it was kind of a surreal moment for me because, you know, I've been in this arena on the opposing side and, you know, seeing them win and seeing the streamers come down and seeing the excitement and the energy in the arena. And to be on this end and see what it's like, it definitely was a great feeling. It's something that I want more of.
I mean, we were one stop away from winning the game, really. So we'll take a lot, obviously, some good stuff out of it. But, I mean, regardless of who's out there, it still sucks to lose.
Loss was Utah's 8th straight in overtime, longest active streak in the NBA. And still, Utah ties the NBA record for made threes in a loss. They hit 23 of them. Lakers 7-9 in games without James and Davis this season, but they're still 7 games back of Utah in the West.
What is at stake for AD without LeBron?
Well, there are a couple things. Let me say one. I always thought AD had a chance to be the greatest power forward ever, right? That's Tim Duncan. But given where the level AD was playing early in his career and how many years he'd already done that, once he started winning championships, I figure maybe he can give Duncan a run for his money. And Stephen A., I know they're not power forwards the way like Barkley or Malone were power forwards, but because they also are rim defenders, they're kind of 4-5 hybrids. But still, and Duncan, I thought, is the guy, and AD had a shot at that. Stuff like winning championships is really important. And if AD can't keep the Lakers afloat in LeBron's absence, that's going to be harder to do. But I think there's something more immediate in terms of, I mean, obviously there are team goals, Stephen A., but the more immediate thing for me in terms of AD, what I want to see from him is game. So when AD comes back to the league, when he's getting his legs under him, his sea legs, on the way to the playoffs, hopefully staying healthy and really getting in basketball shape for the playoffs and trying to get in rhythm, it's unclear to me if he's still the best big in the game. That's what I want to see. I want to see AD come back and by the end of this season convince me that that's still the best big in basketball.
Anthony Davis, when healthy, is arguably the best big in basketball. He's certainly in the conversation. He's one of the top 5 players on the planet. This dude is a career 24 and 10 dude with nearly 2.5 blocks per game. He has never, ever in his 9-year career shot worse than 49% from the field. If I have a concern about Anthony Davis, it's 2 things and 2 things only. Number one, it's his health, because he isn't considered to be the most durable person in the world, obviously so. Number 2, his three-point shooting has dipped over the last 3 years. Used to be at around 34%, went down to 33%, 32%. This season before he got hurt, he was shooting 29% from three-point range. Okay? That has to change. he's going to have to get better in that regard because, again, you have physical big dudes in the Western Conference, and they know that's the way to get to him. Now, the best thing the Lakers could have done, you got to energize a bunny in Montrezl Harrell now as his teammate. He's no longer a Clipper. He's a Laker. But the other issue is that Andre Drummond, that's a big-time pickup because you got a big boy who's capable of throwing his body around against the Jokic's of the world and others. And so because you have that, now you have Anthony Davis being able to be a spy, helping to patrol the front court, not to mention what he brings to you offensively, and none of those dudes take away from him offensively because they're not looking for the basketball. They'll hit the boards to grab offensive rebounds, create extra possessions. They'll hit the boards on the defensive side of the ball to prevent teams from getting more than one shot, which ultimately gives you more opportunities when you get the ball on the offensive side of the ball as well. So I think we recognize this about Anthony Davis, and I think that with him and LeBron healthy, we all anticipate that they're going to the finals to face the Brooklyn Nets, even though the Philadelphia 76ers and the Milwaukee Bucks swear they'll have something to say about that. I think when you look at Anthony Davis, for me, it's his health, which I'm not convinced he's fully healthy. And the other thing is his three-point shooting, because he would need to hit some of those outside shots. He can't shoot 29% from three-point range and expect the Lakers to do the kind of damage they did last year in the postseason.
Yeah, look, you're talking about what he needs to do in team goals for the Lakers, and that's really what to be concerned about right now. What I'm saying, Stephen A., is you're like, well, he's arguably the best big in basketball, certainly one of them. Yeah, no kidding, right? But is he the best? Because when he got hurt, he was the best big in basketball. If we had to say, oh, who's been the best big in basketball over his career, last 3 years, last 5 years, when last seen, it's AD. It was AD.
Hold on, Molly. Molly, help me out here, Molly. Am I wrong, Max?
Yeah.
I never recalled you calling Anthony Davis that. I recalled saying that. I thought you said the Greek Freak, and I thought you said Joel Embiid. A matter of fact, there were now you did acknowledge that Anthony Davis had a chance to be the greatest power forward that ever played basketball. But when you talked about bigs, you never had him as the best.
Well,
when did
I
this
certainly
news come
did.
up?
It's a fluid list, but I certainly did. And if it's not the best big, it's because we're defining bigs as centers who get down in the paint like Embiid. There aren't that many more of those guys really left. Giannis, at times, as you know, I had very highly rated.
No, because you had the Greek Freak, and he wasn't that dude. He was never that dude, but you had the Greek Freak.
I had very highly rated, as
yes,
you recall, and you like to remind me.
Yes, you did. Jokic and Embiid, but not the Greek Freak.
Very highly rated. I did think, especially after last year's playoffs, what AD and LeBron did, AD was the best big in the game. When last seen best big in the game? Well, okay, we can go back and look. That's what I thought, if you don't remember me saying it.
No,
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
no.
Because Jokic and Murray got to the Western Conference Finals, where they saw LeBron and AD and showed them what the next level looks like. Okay. The point is, he's coming back to a league where Jokic has raised his game, where Embiid has raised his game. I'll remind you what I told you off the top of the show. Embiid's offensive and defensive ratings, plus his usage rate, if the season ended today, he would have numbers no one's ever had. The only other guys on the list with him in the top 5 are Michael Jordan 3 times and KD once. He is having a phenomenal season. He's in the best shape we've ever seen him in. He's on a team with shooters, and that's constructed to help him. And so both ends of the floor, not like Jokic where you go, yeah, offensively maybe he's the best, but what about the defense? And AD's got defense. Embiid's doing it both ends of the floor. No, I need to see AD I think, Stephen A., the biggest threat to LeBron James's MVP is Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard, a man that you have sat up here right in that spot and apologized to on First Take on this show for ignoring his exploits.
We all owe him an apology. Dropped 36 last night.
He has a cult hero kind of status in the NBA. Everyone loves this guy. He is the most clutch player in the league. That is unanimous. The consensus, at least, if not most clutch player, Damian Lillard. He's averaging 30 points a night with assists, everything you want. He has taken a team decimated by injury, destroyed by injury. No McCollum until recently. And they're fourth in the Western Conference. They're the fourth best record, tied for fourth best. in the Western Conference. He's the sentimental favorite. He's playing at MVP level. He's shown leadership. We all know he has not been recognized enough. Harden's missed time with his team. Embiid's now hurt. That you look at each candidate on other teams, and Lillard is at least as good as any of them. I think he's the biggest. LeBron's the MVP. I think Lillard is his biggest threat.
Lillard is not his biggest threat. You can make an argument that he should be because he has been absolutely sensational. He warrants MVP consideration. I'm doing an essay on him this weekend for SportsCenter, for crying out loud. I mean, Lillard is the truth and a half. Make no mistake about it. Unfortunately, he is in the Pacific Northwest. He's not in a major market. He doesn't get the notoriety that he deserves, which is why I have always been an advocate. His personality, his swag, his ability to ball, combined with his ability to deliver when it really, really counts. The clutch player in the NBA. Nobody's hit more clutch shots in 2012, more so than Damian Lillard. When you take that into consideration, he should be the biggest threat to LeBron James. But because of their record, because he's in the Pacific Northwest, because he's flying under the radar to some degree where people like myself have to come on national television and apologize for not recognizing him even more, he's not the biggest threat to LeBron James for the MVP. LeBron James should be first right now. There's no question about it because of availability just as much as his capabilities. Kevin Durant's been out. I think James Harden's greatness has been compromised by the greatness of Kyrie Irving, and especially as of late. So as a result, you're looking at Kyrie Irving. Combine that with Joel Embiid being injured. That's where I'm at right now. To me, Joel Embiid could come back soon. If he comes back soon, okay, and continues to play the way that he's been playing, and Philadelphia captures the #1 seed in the East, I think that's the biggest threat to not LeBron James being knocked off the chance to grab his 5th league MVP. But I want to make this case for LeBron James's league MVP in that regard. His numbers are his numbers. We get all of that. We know he's missed 1 game this season. Anthony Davis has missed 18. We know that Kevin Durant has missed his share of games as well, and now Joel Embiid is out. I want to read this quote from Frank Vogel, the head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers, which I think is the most strongest point to make about LeBron James. Quote, he plays every night, setting a great tone, I think, for young players and the whole league that if he feels good, he's going to be in there and he's going to compete at a super high level and dominate the game. He's the MVP of the league, in my opinion, thus far because of that mindset and what he's doing for our team. And he just wins the games in so many different ways. He really does it. He's really doing it all for us. The first part of that sentence, where he plays every night, sets a great tone for young players. Let's think about what we want the NBA to be. We want the NBA to be a league where we ain't worried about load management. We want the NBA to be a league where guys sign up, they're the headline, they're the marquee, and night in, night out, you know they're going to show up and you're going to have to deal with them. That their absence from competition is an aberration, not predictable, not the norm, not something to be expected. If LeBron James, even with what he's doing numbers-wise, if you want to make a case for LeBron James this year, you actually can make the same case for James Harden in regards to James Harden being available because he don't like to miss games.
Right.
He plays. LeBron, there's something to be said about a guy that's committed to showing up every night.
Particularly,
that's what we're going to miss most about LeBron James.
Now, these are bigs, but Embiid is missing time, and he was my MVP until he got hurt.
Right.
AD has missed time. James Harden wasn't there in the beginning of the season.
Yep.
AD is out. Like, you look around the league, LeBron's the one who only missed 1 game, and it was the day before the All-Star break, and that is truly remarkable. He's also a two-way player. LeBron will play defense. He's a two-way player at his age doing all of that. He is the MVP of the league. He certainly deserves more than the 4 he's already won. Let me say, Lillard, what he's
doing, doesn't miss games either.
He doesn't miss games, and he's done this. They're in 4th place without McCollum, Stephen A.
And Nurkic.
That's right, but McCollum's back.
Yeah, McCollum just got back Tuesday.
So Lillard's going to get the credit for what they've done because he did it for so long without McCollum, and McCollum's going to give him a boost. Portland is very live right now in the West, and I think if there's someone who's going to win it who's not named LeBron, it will be Damian Lillard.
I don't think it will be. I wish it was, but I don't think it will be. But the last point I want to make is this. I'm not talking about people who are truly, truly injured. Kevin Durant It's been a while. He's been out longer than I expected him to be.
I'm scared.
I'm starting to get scared. Guys get nervous about that. He should have been back by now. AD, you want to be careful. I totally understand it because that's Achilles that we're talking about here. I totally get that. But for the most part, if you are a player in the National Basketball Association, I want you to sit back and think about this. LeBron James is 36 years of age in his 18th season, and he's healthier than y'all. What the hell are y'all doing that y'all can't make sure you're healthy enough? You should be embarrassed that this man shows up to work more than you.
Vogel's.
All right,
quote,
we got to go. Maybe he's on that TB12 method, right, Max?
Yeah, I would just say Vogel's quote when
All
he
right,
says,
guys.
if he's feeling good, he's going to play, misses the point to me. To me is, of course he doesn't feel good every night. He plays anyway. That's, to me, what LeBron has shown this year.
Good day. Welcome into First Take on a Feel Good Friday. Thank you for sort of starting your weekend here with us. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karam Rose. And gentlemen, the MVP race, it's a fluid situation like a Stephen A's list. And Joel Embiid sat down with Stephen A. Stephen A., I understand that interview will air in its entirety on Monday, correct? SportsCenter with Stephen A. at 7 p.m. Eastern?
A part of it will air on SportsCenter with Stephen A. Monday night, and then the interview in its entirety will air on Stephen A.'s World the following day.
Can't wait.
Okay. Awesome. And then we also have Damian Lillard making his case. He joined Jalen and Jacoby. So let's hear from both of them right now.
When Shaq won his MVPs, averaging 29.7 and 13 boards. I'm up there when it comes to stats. And, also, being the best team in the East. What more can you ask? And you look at the last two MVPs, same thing, Giannis. I mean, those were his numbers, and he had the best record in the East.
I feel like I'm really in the mix for it. And when you consider how people are defended, when I watch a lot of NBA games, and I just feel like the people who would, have a vote for MVP or talk about who's the MVP and who's not, I don't feel like everybody really watched these games, because if they did, they would see how I'm being face guarded full court and double teamed near half court and trapped. What does an MVP look like? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you making the case off of? Because a lot of people, like I said, are just not being defended the way I'm being defended. And I think I have a stronger case this year than I ever have, and I think I'm deserving of it. That's just the truth.
All right, y'all. Max, I'm going to start with you. Dame time or your guy, Joel Embiid? I know you originally had him. Who do you think's making the stronger case for MVP at this moment?
Damian Lillard. And Jokic would be my pick for MVP by a hair over Lillard, because in the last couple weeks, games that were not understandable given the load he's had to carry this season. Look, Embiid game for game, I'm not arguing. He was my MVP, as you remember, Stephen A., to start the season right up until he got hurt. Missed a little too much time. Even at that point, he had missed some games, but I was like, he's playing so much better than everyone else. That included LeBron, by the way. I thought he was clearly the best in the league. I'd have given him the MVP. Also carrying team and all that stuff, missed too much time. You know who hasn't missed time? Damian Lillard. You know who didn't have a team around him, but was carrying his team to a good record anyway and winning games with enormous? Damian Lillard. Stephen A., it was you who set up on this show, what was that, maybe not even a month ago, something like that, talking about you needed to apologize to Damian Lillard because we have not paid enough attention to him. Now, partly that's because he doesn't play in a glamour market. Partly that's because it's the West Coast and the games are on late. Partly it's because he resembles another guard that we've seen who's done amazing things, Steph Curry. I get, and Steph has already done that, right? That's all true. But Damian Lillard, just forget about the fact that he carries his team, that he doesn't chase rings, that he stayed right where he was, that he's the leader that he is. When you put up numbers just about as good as anyone's, when you don't miss any time, when you lead your team in spite of injuries all around you, no one there to help you, and You are, no one disputes this, by the way, the most clutch player in the game since he's come in the league. Not only do our eyeballs say that, and by reputation we believe it, all the numbers say it. You're also the most clutch guy? No. Damian Lillard right now is neck and neck with Jokic for MVP ahead of Embiid.
Well, I'm not going to dispute that because I definitely think, as I pointed out a few weeks ago, it's time that we give Damian Lillard his props. This dude is playing sensational basketball throughout this season. To do so without C.J. McCollum, without Nurkic for a vast majority of those times, inserting new guys like Covington and others into the mix, Damian Lillard deserves all the credit in the world. Here's where the problem lies. And Joel Embiid brought this up. Number one, as it pertains to Joel Embiid, they're number one in the Eastern Conference. They've got the best record in the Eastern Conference and one of the best records in basketball, and that has to count for something. Now, they've been like 8-6 this year without Joel Embiid, and I think they went like 7-2 or 8-1 in a 9-game stretch or so that he was out over a couple of weeks or so because of that knee injury. But the bottom line is that nobody can deny that he's been absolutely positively dominant. In the 5 games that he's played pretty much since his return, other than a 14-point game, he had 35, 36, 39, 38, if I remember correctly. He's been pretty much unstoppable and on both ends of the floor, and the Sixers are the number 1 seed. So that's an argument that you would make in favor of Embiid, even though he's played 15 less games. In the case of the Joker, Nikola Jokic, that is where it gets really, really interesting and dicing for Damian Lillard as it pertains to his aspirations. You're talking about a guy in Jokic that's averaging 26, 11, and 8, nearly 9 assists per game. You're talking about a guy that's playing for the Denver Nuggets that's the number 4 seed in the Western Conference, 3.5 games better than the 6-seeded Portland Trailblazers. And he's clearly the face of that franchise, and he's clearly the leader of that franchise in terms of who's the go-to man, who's the franchise player for them, even though we all love Jamal Murray and definitely hope he gets better after suffering his torn ACL the other night. But you look at Jokic, and there is just no question what he brings to the table as well. So if you're Damian Lillard and you have to contend with Jokic out west, who's got a better record, he's 3.5 games better, he hasn't missed a single game, pretty much just he's been just as available as you have been. The one argument that you can make in Damian Lillard's favor is the fact that C.J. McCollum missed so many games along with Nurkic. That's the best argument you can make outside of the fact that he's clutch as well. He's the best clutch player in basketball. One could easily argue with Damian Lillard and what he's been able to do since 2012. But on one hand, again, it's Embiid winning, number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and in the West, you've got an MVP candidate that has a better record and has been just as reliable as you have been in terms of games being played while he's doing that. That's where Damian Lillard runs into a roadblock. But it's an interesting and compelling argument to make for everybody.
Look, I'll say this about Embiid. Embiid, it was on Basketball Reference today. There are certain like offensive ratings, defensive ratings, and usage rate. Right now, if the season ended now, he would have a combination of those numbers that no one's ever had. The other guys on the list are like Michael Jordan appears on the list 3 times, and someone else amazing appears on the list. I'll tell you right now, and Kevin Durant appears on that list once. Pretty good company, right? And who knows if he ends the season like that. But game for game, Embiid has been the best player in basketball. His main competition comes from James Harden, because Harden's had an amazing impact this season. Both of them have missed too much. I'm going to take them off. Like, you can't miss 19 games and win the MVP when there are this many great players in the league. So I'm taking them off the list. You make a very good case for Jokic, and in fact, I agree with you. I would give it to Jokic by a hair, because as I said, there were a couple games in recent weeks where Lillard fell off his incredibly high standards. And it's understandable because he's exhausted, right? He's had to carry the load. Let's see what Jokic does now without Jamal Murray the rest of the way, because that's what Lillard's been dealing with more than that. No, you mentioned it, no McCollum, no Nurkic. And anyway, his team isn't as good as Jokic's, and it's not just because you may think Jokic is better than Lillard. So Lillard's been having to carry this enormous load the entire time, and as a result of that, I think he deserves extra credit. I still have Jokic ahead of him by a hair. I think it's Jokic and Lillard. It's a 2-horse race as we come down the stretch.
Well, again, but what if Embiid continues to do what he's been doing and doesn't miss any more games? I think it was the 77-78 season, if I remember correctly, when Bill Walton won the MVP, and he had missed 24 games that season. I mean, the situation is that, again, we're going to some of us are going to count games missed against Joel Embiid. Some may not, if that's all the games that he's missed and he remains as dominant as he has been, and the Philadelphia 76ers end up being the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. These are the kind of things that Damian Lillard has to pay attention to. And he's absolutely right in terms of people watching games. Some people don't watch games at all. I'm certainly not one of those people, but in the same breath, in defense of a lot of voters, yeah, you're going to watch the games, but guess what? You can't watch every single game. I mean, the fact of the matter is you're going to sit up there and you're going to watch the fourth quarter in one game, the first half in another game. You're going to go back and forth, watching these games and paying attention. You're going to read articles. You're going to look at numbers and stats and things of that nature. So he's absolutely right in terms of people not being able to watch games start to finish. But it doesn't mean we're blind. We know that C.J. McCollum was out. We know that Nurkic is out. We know what Damian Lillard has had to deal with. And even though I think that Terry Stotts, knows what he's doing as a coach, in the same breath, there's been no changes. You pretty much know what's coming with the Portland Trailblazers night in and night out. There's never been any tweaks that we have seen in regards to his coaching. So that's another thing I think is working against Damian Lillard. And then, of course, the power in the Western Conference. But just like the power in the Western Conference should be taken into consideration for him, it's got to be taken into consideration for Jokic. And that's where, again, it's a challenge. But Damian Lillard could still win the award the way that he's been balling throughout the season. It's about the stretch run, and that's what it comes down to. I don't rule out any of the three. And, oh, by the way, if Harden comes back sooner than later, I'm not ruling him out either, because it can't happen when you consider what he was doing on the basketball court.
Fluid situation. I told you to start the segment. Guys, I thought this was a pretty interesting note. The only players with more points and assists through 9 seasons than Damian Lillard, that would be LeBron James and Oscar Robertson. Pretty good company to be in. Maybe people need to watch the games.
Those are big
We'll keep
dudes.
it going. Steph Curry with the shot, cooking it